See that clap down, Tom? Official team still.
So welcome to... Alright, now I'm gonna be serious. Welcome to this episode of Why Didn't You Tell Me? We've got some special guests again today. We've got the Black Dads Live podcast. And we're going to be talking about black dads and lads and experiences within parenting. So without further delay, I'm Tanashi, and if we introduce ourselves from this way.
I'm Carlos again, thank you.
I'm Thierry.
I'm Anton.
Oh, right. I was waiting for you still. Yo, you know who it is by now. My name's Young Kid Trish.
I'm Felix.
And I'm Dash, my son's favourite dad.
Right, well, it's good to have you guys.
Thank you very much for having us again.
I guess we'll start with parenting. So when did you guys actually have your children? What ages?
Boy, I can't even remember. It was just the other day though. My son, how old was he? Now, do you know what? I always mix up my son's birthday. This is the problem.
How many do you have?
Only one. But I always mix up his due date with his actual birthday.
Okay. Yeah.
So
That's some attention to detail.
It was due on the 27th of February 2019, but he was actually born on the 23rd of February 2019. I am 30 now, so yeah. I was, 28, was it?
That's 10 years older than you, though, still, isn't it?
Yeah, 28.
That's not good. How about you, bro?
I ain't got no kids, bro. I'm joking. I ain't got no kids. Not that I know of anyway. So. Honestly, if there's anyone out there who thinks...
Yo, this ain't no lonely hearts, you know.
No, you're totally... If there's anyone out there who thinks you're the man of my youth...
I don't have no spare money.
I swear to God, I'm broke. Yeah, I ain't got nothing for you, but nah, I ain't got any kids yet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, well, me, I had my first one when I was 24. I'm 34 now. And my second one, 2 years later.
I hit my targets. I don't mess around.
Yeah.
I got one boy, one girl.
Done.
Nice. Nice. How about yourself?
I've got one, and I had Remy when I was 31. Yeah, I'm 33 now. Yeah. So it's nearly two in June.
Right, I was going to say, yo, you man's maths is impeccable. Honestly, swear down, bro.
Why I keep counting backwards is so hard, you know. I'm remembering the age as well.
So what was your experience having a child? Did you say 21?
24,
yeah.
I just embraced it, you know. It was fun from the first moment that he came up until now. It was hard at first, and big shout out to my missus because she did labour with no pain relief whatsoever. But it's only had he came within like 50 minutes.
So a quick short labour.
You're both efficient.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. In 50 minutes.
I'm not coming 50 minutes.
I'm about to say, why you got to take that away from me? Good. I was good for a quick second, then.
I swear it was free stroke.
I remember it was long stroke, but whatever you want to call it.
And what was the feeling like when your child was born? My dad always says it's like one of the proudest moments when you hold your child. But tell me, what was that like?
Nah, it's one of them where it's hard to describe.
Did you cry?
No, I didn't actually. I
Neither
didn't
did I thought I felt like I wanted to cry. I was so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. And the nurse just snapped me back into it because like, are you going to check to see what you've had? Because I didn't know what I was having at the time. I was like, oh right, yeah. And I was like, oh, it's a boy. And I was like, this even made me like happy. I was just like, oh. At that point, I wasn't even thinking, oh, like, I'm having a boy, I'm with a girl, just like happy that the baby just arrived like safely. But
mine's happened that quick. I remember Laura going straight into labour. I nearly missed it. went into labour at home, like, our water's broke and stuff, and the nurse was trying to delay us from coming in for some weird reason, was like, nah, I said, we're going, let's go. So we got there, and then literally she couldn't, I don't even know where the strength came from, because we lived in the top floor, flats.
Wow.
And we didn't have a lift, and she couldn't even walk. And she was like, even now, she says to me, you carried me down them stairs. I'm like,
No, I didn't.
I don't know. I said, I don't know how that happened. But it was like, literally, yeah, I just put her arm around me and sort of had to lift her up a little bit and just like shuffle her down all the flights of stairs.
Did you go gym still, innit?
I do now. But yeah, shuffled her downstairs, and then I remember I was getting to the hospital, and then there was a midwife luckily outside. I think she was fagging it up or whatever she was doing. And then she clocked Laura coming out. Yeah, smoking.
I was smoking.
I was thinking that.
And then,
It's since it's moved to whole.
bro, it's this whole talk, man. It's this whole talk.
Why would I not say smoking?
It's this whole talk, man.
It's one word, isn't it?
Smoking short enough.
One syllable.
Smoking.
Jason, pause, man, because you haven't got no kids. This is what I'm talking about. Because he's asking me a question about the baby.
Yeah, look, you say fagging it up. No. Let's break this down. You tried to put me down for not having kids. Put me down for not having kids.
I didn't try to put you
Right,
down.
so tell
I'm saying
me
you're
now,
asking me
yeah.
a question about the
Tell
kids.
me
innit?
now,
I'm trying
yeah,
to tell him.
what is fagging it up got to do with you having kids?
So anyway, so that's why he was outside.
Exactly.
That's why the woman was outside, sorry. She was smoking.
Nah, okay, you're
Or
welcome
something.
though. I forgive you.
Oh, you're welcome. So then, she took Laura up in like the emergency lift, and then I had to run up the stairs, whatever. And I remember just walking into the room, and Laura going onto all fours, and I could just see hair, and I was like, oh, like yeah. So it was just it was already on the way. It was already coming, and then before I knew it, it was here, and then I don't think it really hit me. You man might say different, but until we actually got home. And then once we got home, because then everyone sort of disperses and leaves us.
You're on your own.
And it's like, oh, we've got a baby. Do you know what I mean? I
But
think that's
you
when it
can't
really
also
hit
the
me.
same for you.
Well, our lever was not really my lever. Lever was long for us.
But for you, because you were bored, bro.
I was tired because for us it was just over 24 hours.
Wow.
So it was long. And I just remembered, because I'd taken her into hospital the day before to get checked. And then I'd gone home. And then she called me back, like, first thing in the morning. And the hospital had actually said, don't come in yet. It's not ready. Get as much sleep as you can. I couldn't sleep. I've been told everything's starting now. So I'm like, I need to go. I need to make sure I'm there on time. I don't want to miss it.
Or sleep in the car park, innit?
Yeah, I tried that, you know.
Yeah.
I can't do that. I couldn't sleep in the car. So I got there, and then it was just a very, very long day. Like, I couldn't even sleep in the hospital because I was just waiting for everything to happen. But we ended up having a section. So my one job was, because we didn't find out the gender of our baby, was to reveal to Mrs. Laura what the gender was. And I held her out. It's like, oh, it's a boy. I couldn't even go, it's a boy, because I just choked up. And so the doctors told her before, and they were like, I thought you were supposed to say, and I was like,
It's
Yeah,
a good job
but I
that you
didn't
choked
cry.
up, like, but not that you didn't know.
I knew it was a boy. I did say it after they said it. I was like, yeah, it's a boy. But she's like, I'd already seen as well as being told. before you give
So
me
you
the
basically had one job and
Yeah.
you fumbled it, innit?
That's really interesting, actually, because like my dad, I think, was saying like back in Zim, the men like are not present.
They're
and
not
they-
allowed.
Yeah,
Or
just
the
like
wetting the baby's head or whatever.
Yeah.
So
They're
they're
elsewhere getting
out
They're
drinking.
drinking.
yeah, they're out drinking. Yeah,
And it's
weird,
just
isn't
left
it?
to the women. But to me, I was like, nah, I
Yeah.
wanted to make
I
sure
know,
I
how
want to
can you
be
be-
there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Olivia went for the same thing. She was probably in labour for like over 24 hours. So we went to hospital and they was like, oh, the baby's not here yet. Not coming yet. So sent her back home. Again, I had one job. She told me to go get a cheeseburger. And she said, no, something. And then I came back with the full shebang. And she's like, I can't eat that. And I was like, oh, my bad. Well, obviously I ate it. I did it on purpose. But then, yeah, when we went back to the hospital, I was just tired and I just wanted to go to sleep. And I remember...
Lily was hungry, obviously.
Yeah, she was hungry. I was tired. Like, the nurses, imagine there was 2 seats in there. They're supposed to let me sit on one of the seats. But both of them just sat on the 2 seats. So I stood there for hours.
The whole time?
Just there for time.
Yeah, you didn't have a chair?
No. They didn't even offer me another chair.
You didn't ask for one? Yeah, you didn't ask for one.
I was just thinking, okay, I just need to make sure that she's okay. And that's sort of my priority. But then at one point, they let me sit down. But then I was like, I need to go to sleep.
How many hours you stood for?
Probably hours. But obviously, I thought the baby was coming in. I was excited.
You're ready to go?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. Ready to catch the baby. We've all...
I was thinking then, because a lot of your stories are like, like waiting around anticipation, nerves and things like that. Do you feel, is there a sense of like almost like helplessness during that situation where you're kind of like, I want to help you, I can't help you?
Yeah, I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah. Like, I don't know, for me, I feel like I couldn't understand why the men weren't there previously.
Yeah.
Because as a woman, like I'm a woman, but if a woman was in my place, just say like her mum or her sister or anyone along those lines, they would naturally know what to do or how to comfort a woman, like without like having to be told.
Yeah.
Like us as men, we have to be told. I can't rub my foot. Okay, I'll rub your foot. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like naturally, a woman might be like, "Oh, do you want your foot rub?" and just do stuff like that. So I feel like a woman, it's probably easier for another woman to be there.
Yeah. I think as a man, we can only imagine what they're going through. We have no actual idea.
And for me, I'm there just trying to comfort, but my comfort's normally through like jokes and whatnot. That is not helpful.
You think of being like helpful when you're going out your deep breaths.
I'm like, breathe.
Breathe.
Calm down, relax.
Yeah. You're not really helping.
At one point, she was falling asleep, and the nurse was like, "No, listen very carefully." I was like, "Listen, you have to listen
very carefully.
Very carefully. Open up your eyes and listen to what the woman was saying." And what I remember Olivia was saying was like something like she was practicing that hypnobirthing, so she's trying to meditate and take herself to. And she's talking about some beach. She's like, what? Get back into the zone. We want the babies to come here today.
This is the game. All right, this is the football club right now. Run down the wing. When you push, get into the end zone.
I'm telling you.
So what's interesting, as black sons then, Thierry and Felix, what's your earliest memories of your dads? If you can remember that.
I think my earliest memory of my dad is that we moved to this country with my dad. So my mom came first, and then we stayed with our dad for, I think it was a 2-year stay before we came over. So when we went through the whole process of, I think a lot of people never actually realize that immigrating to another country is such a hard process. And when you have kids, is that one, you're afraid of
easy back then compared to now. So now I'm like, whoa.
Like, I remember distinctively my dad being taken to another room, and then me and my sister being left in another. So I was 5.
What, immigration?
Yeah.
Oh my
dad. So I was 5. My sister was around about 3. So we're left alone with this white woman. We've never seen white people like this before. So now we're in a place of fear, like, oh, I don't know what's going on. My dad's being interrogated, blah blah blah. Everything's fine. He comes back in. He's our hero again. So when we came out of the airport, for 2 years, we didn't know our mom. So our dad was our safety. So for everything, when it came to building a relationship with our mom again, it was like, yo, you're an alien. This guy is our big all and end all. Yeah. So even till to this day, it's like, we love our mom. But if we know that we need someone to ride out, we call our dad first.
Yeah. It's like pack mentality, isn't it? It's like human instinct, isn't it? Like you just kind of latch on to,
But that's what I keep on saying. Like, that's one thing I have appreciated about this whole pandemic, because I've got to spend so much time with my son, which I just wouldn't have done. And that has helped build our bond, because if anything does happen to him, because I have been working from home, he can sometimes come to me. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't necessarily always want his mum. And that's what I feel like a lot of children are like the black are, they just want the mum. And then it takes them until they get to a certain age to then be like, oh, let me go to my dad. But from early, he has been like that. So it's like a nice balance between us both.
I also think that society has just a narrative as well of like dads, especially black dads as well. Like, oh, black dad. There's like, whether it's film, comedy, or whatever. I don't know who compounds or where it started from, but there seems to be a narrative of like black dads not being there, or black dads ain't shit, or doing all this hokey nonsense about it. And growing up, I never really saw any of that. I always see it in films and think, is that what American dads are like or something? Because for me, like, you know, I was brought up in a really loving home. My dad is like, you know, he's very much my inspiration. He's me. If you meet my dad, honestly, he's me, but has money to burn. Like, he's just a joker. He loves life. He loves people.
Does he have a yearly colour as well?
Circle so small, it's him.
That's what I'm about to say to you. I was just about looking at me.
Even I didn't make it. But like, as a father, like, it was sick. Like, he's a very, you know, educational dude, and he was very supportive. Was always there. You know, played football together, went swimming. Like, I had God's honest truth, I wouldn't have asked for a better kind of upbringing from a father. I was super, super lucky. But then when people push these narratives about like black dads not being there, black dads not being enough, I'm thinking, where does this come from?
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I think I'm similar because from all my friends who I've seen, like, all their fathers have always played an active part in their life. Like, so I'm lucky to be blessed with, my father's passed away, but there's a lot of older black men who are fathers who were able to fill that role in my life, so to speak.
Yeah.
So maybe, the parents might not be together, but from what I can see, I'm very similar to yourself. Like, all the black dads have always played an active part in their children's lives. So I agree. I think the narrative which is portrayed in the media and the news, where black dads are not so much in their life, or when they are in their life, it's for a period of time, or they're not there to support for a long time. I think,
like, I've not watched anything that has like when you actually think about it, I can't remember a thing where I've seen like a black father as a role model, apart from Pursuit of Happiness.
Yeah.
Whereas a black dad is like a role model, and that is a stable condition throughout a film or a TV show.
Yeah.
But then you have to remember, like, role models come in or like shapes and forms. Like, think about Fresh Prince, for example.
Yeah.
Even though his dad wasn't there,
but his
Uncle Phil.
do you know what I mean?
But then I guess that's I think we talked about it before, wasn't it? But we kind of said, like, you know, it takes a community. What was it? It takes a village to raise a child.
It's facts.
Especially within the black community, like, we all chip in.
You have to.
Your kid's my kid. My kid's your kid, and you know, wherever that child lays, like, we'll guide them, and there'll be some sort of male influence or.
And even discipline, like where I grew up, like, you could get disciplined by a neighbour. It was cool. Like, it was alright. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you get caught in the street doing something wrong. You get beat by the person that caught you. They take you home. Your parents beat you for embarrassing them, and then they beat you for the actual thing that you did.
And what I love about your podcast is that I remember watching one where it was talking about, where you guys were talking about discipline, and the core of it was not, I think, when outsiders look at our community and they hear about discipline, they see it as abuse, they see it as torture to the children.
Yeah.
But where we see it as a correction that has allowed us to flourish.
Yeah.
But then also we find it as comedy, because we're not going to regurgitate what they did to us, but we find the learnings through it.
That's what I'm saying. I think there's a very thin line between what we're saying. That, for example, our parents didn't just beat us for no reason.
When we say beat, it's not like I wasn't.
Not black and blue.
Our parents would discipline us. Yeah. But there was always a reason for it. You know what I mean? Like, I've got some trauma over there.
But it's a commonality.
I was always beat for a reason. Like, I had messed up. I knew I had messed up. I knew I had done wrong. It weren't that I came home fortunately. You know, not everyone is in that position. Some people were beat just because their parents were abusive. You know what I'm saying? And absolutely. That is a fact. You know, we can't run away from that. But unfortunately for us, when I say I was beat, I did something wrong. I feel I fucked up. It was, you know, listen, you messed up. You can't mess up. This is what you get when you mess up.
Consequences.
You know what I'm saying?
And
consequences.
I think ultimately it's that signal to the child to say, this is wrong.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
facts.
So that form has changed. It might not be, physically beating them up now, but just signalling to them that actually this is wrong behaviour.
It's like when you talk about
that,
getting suspended from school. Like, luckily your mum was there. But to me, my biggest fear was getting suspended from school or getting sent to remove. Because when that letter went home to my
Or they called your parents.
because when
I feel like our white counterparts don't. That fear. Having your parents.
Listen, when your mum would say, listen, I'll tell your dad.
Or when they go
wait to get home.
You ever get that nip in the arm where they go like this?
I mean, when you know when you're thinking, oh my gosh.
So there's things that obviously that quite clear in terms of like you've done something wrong and you're gonna get disciplined.
Yeah.
But what values or behavioural things did you also find that you were getting disciplined for? Like for me, with my mum, for example, it was just kind of speaking out. When there's adults and stuff like that. And do you know what I mean?
My parents are very big on respect.
Absolutely.
You have to be respectful to everybody. And there is a place that a child plays in a conversation when adults are talking, and that's keep your mouth shut. And my parents were very, very keen to teach me those lessons. Like when people are talking, you are respectful. So, for example, it's similar to what you're just saying. If I was out in public, my mum was talking to her friend, and if I spoke out of turn and I said something,
you get that look.
You knew it was on.
And then
it's ingrained in all in that black community though, because think about it this way. Do you know when you used to go knock for your friend, and then the mum might be like, "Oh, come in, get something to eat." Like, it doesn't matter how much of a bad man, road man you swear out when you get everybody. Like, hi, you're an auntie. We all knew how to pattern it. We're all like,
you have to address them as auntie and uncle, and be respectful and just treat them essentially like they were your parents. And I think that's beautiful though. I love that.
Hello, how are you? When they come in, you had to ask them.
And that's what I said to you, like, on the pod, like, and you take all the bass out your voice. Hello, Mr. Bailey. I'm not too bad, thank you.
Take all the bass out your voice.
All the bass out your voice. Yeah. You start talking proper.
As soon as they're out, you're like, yo. What's the motive tonight?
But no one ever causes none of this. Like, whenever I went to school where it was predominantly white areas as well, I also used to think like your mum jokes are quite a big thing. Where it's like, oh, your mum's Asian. I've never heard a black person ever say that to me. Like, cuss out someone else's parents.
Because it's not because
it was never.
You didn't find it funny.
No, it's never.
See, that's some face now.
I remember someone said it to me. I was like, that's a bit mean. Why would you say that about my mum?
You even know my mum.
I was like, she's on night shift. That's not fair.
She's working really hard.
Like, I'm just literally like fled another country. Jeez, give her a break. Like, she's doing enough.
I was gonna say I used to find that in my family, my mum and dad used to adopt two completely different roles. You know what I mean? Like, my dad was kind of really the kind of chill person. You know, my dad was pissed off. Yeah, he'd be like, "Yo, he's quiet."
Oh, yo, look, I didn't get that.
What, both of them on it?
Oh, nah, my mum was less, but my mum was still on it. But my dad, nah. But my dad was the best thing since sliced bread.
Your dad's still...
My dad.
That's what I said. Obviously, I've seen both sides of your dad. I'm like, what? Where did you come from? You're not the same guy.
That side, is what I seen regularly. And then when I asked him now, when I got older, and I was like, how come I was the only one that got beat? Because there's four of us, you see, in my siblings. And I was like, I was the only one that got beat in it. And I didn't understand it. And I was like, why? And Dad was like, well, you was the second oldest and you volunteered yourself a lot, son. So the other one seen what I got and they was like, nah, I don't want to do that.
So my dad used to like double jeopardy, as I like to call it. Basically, say my older brother gets in trouble, we'd all get it.
Joint enterprise.
I get in trouble. My brothers get it because he was like, "You're not teaching each other. You're not.
That's fine because obviously you put ownership on all of us.
It's accountability.
Now, but then you're going to be starting the wars in between eternally, man.
Nah, imagine if that happens in our house. If I was in our household, because I would have to beat you up in it. After I got beat, I'm like, nah.
You got me beat. You got me beat. Nah.
That's what I
It's the
mean.
worst thing is what? It was even like school stuff. Like my brother would have done bad at school.
No,
I swear to God, man. I swear to God.
Even if you done alright.
Yeah. I mean, like my dad was. The thing is, it's changed as a person, but like, I don't know. Yeah,
They all have changed.
Different people, that's it.
Yeah,
It's like, look how close you and your brothers and sisters are now, though. You guys move as a unit. I think you guys are super, super close, and I think that's also why.
Yeah.
Because you have to be like, listen, right?
All for one and one for all.
So we have to come together, man. We can't survive this.
Because that post-beating trauma, and they always just comfort each other in it.
And I think that's one of the things with just being in black families and just having siblings and also friendships which transcend, as we said earlier in a previous podcast, that friends become family.
Facts.
And when they become that, they become a point of reference for your parents because they know that these people are sharpening you.
Yeah.
And they know the real friends who actually push you to go further.
Yeah.
So now that you guys are parents, you guys look at your kids' friends and go,
Nah, Timmy ain't making it, man. Timmy's not gonna make it.
As we know from the previous podcast, obviously, Tyler's a 10. And the thing is, though, you actually do call Tyler's friends for him, don't you? Like, because you can see what you want for your son. You see what you want for your son.
I think ultimately as well, it's like for me, it was my dad being lazy and he couldn't bother disciplining us age. So he just started doing a group in it. You know what I mean?
One time.
But as you're saying, it does call, your parents start to see who your true friends are.
Yeah, they can see it before you
who
can see it.
are going to influence you to be greater. So with Tyler, it's like, you're not calling them because, they're not
not
good
10s.
kids, they're not 10s.
Yeah,
You're actually
yeah,
like,
yeah.
no, you might be a 10 in like your personality and everything, but there's this one little trait of yours, which I can see is going to grow, and you're going to be a problem for me.
Yeah, you're a little shit, mate.
That's it.
Yeah, because that's what it will be. I look at him and I think, nah. You know what I'm saying? You can't be around my son because he won't do them things that you're doing.
So, Jason, you are the non-parent out of the Black Dads podcast. So,
Yeah, currently.
current.
Yeah.
So, what made you want to join and be part of that conversation?
I was asked really nicely. No. Seriously. What it was now, was Carlos hit me up like, yo, my cousin Anton wants to start a pod about black dads' lives. And you know what, even though I'm not a black dad, I thought the movement and what he wanted to achieve, what they wanted to achieve was really, really something I wanted to be a part of. I thought it was a very positive message that they wanted to speak about, especially at the time, when it was the Black Lives Matter movement. I thought, this is a very powerful thing that I just wanted to be a part of. And I knew that, obviously not being a dad at the time, wasn't necessarily in keeping with the whole meaning, but I still had experiences and things to offer as part of, having black parents, so I thought I'm able to still be part of the conversation. I'm able to bring, hopefully, some sort of light-hearted banter, and also at the same time I couldn't miss the opportunity to piss Anton off.
That's true, that,
Well, no, it's one of those ones that sometimes, you've got to see your brother's vision, do you know what I'm saying? You've got to see what your brother's trying to build, and if you feel you can be a part of that vision in a positive way, then you'll jump in, you know what I'm saying? So I thought that was it, and I thought, as long as I'm black... Let me join in.
Black and you've got life.
Yeah, that's right, man. You know what I'm saying? That's right, man. But yeah, it's the same. It's one of those ones, isn't it? If you can see what the vision is, you get me?
Yeah.
Jump on, man. Be a part of it. Try and build with your brothers.
So, for the rest of you guys, how has being part of this podcast experience strengthened your parenting?
I would say strength from my parent because a lot of the times they've let me know things which I probably would not necessarily thought of myself. And especially, like I said, in this current pandemic or the current situation that we're in, it makes it difficult in terms of normally you can see or you'll be out speaking to a lot of other parents, etc.
Yeah.
And they'll be giving you tips on how to basically parent your children. But being in a situation what we have been when we haven't been necessarily been able to connect with each other, by coming on the podcast, you can just get some tips just there, like real life tips from people who are going through it with.
What's it been like being, I guess, going through the pandemic and trying to homeschooling and all of that kind of stuff? Like,
To be fair,
what's that experience like? Yeah.
To be fair, my son's 2, so he just literally runs right, runs right, and it's just a case of, okay, I'm just gonna lock myself in this and
Here's a Skittle, don't hurt me.
Just do what you want. But to be fair, obviously, we do try and put things into place in terms of simple things like reading and writing and drawing and just trying to keep him active.
Yeah.
Because at this young age for him, it's a case of just keeping him engaged and just try to time him out so he can go to sleep.
Your homeschooling for me was long. I'm not gonna lie. It was long. At first it was hard because the school didn't really put in a structure for them on different things that they needed to do. So with my little daughter, they just sent home a workbook that should have been printed off in colour but was printed off in black and white. So then some of the questions that they were asking was like, oh, how many red cars is there? Do you know what I mean? So I'm looking at it I'm like, well, you can't even do this. Do you know what I mean? So things like that, which was a challenge at the start, but then I found through just talking to a few more friends, a couple of apps, because they both got their own iPads.
Right, okay.
So I found some apps that they could use and do homeschooling, which follows the curriculum anyway. Wow. And then once they got onto that, because I knew that that's something that would engage them, they just started to progress and they actually went back to school in a better position than when they first went off. So that was quite good, something that I'm quite proud of, to be honest.
For me, luckily, Remy's not of school age. He was about to go into nursery when the pandemic first came down. So, literally for us, it was just keeping Remy entertained.
Yeah. And
then finding out what other people are doing, because luckily Remy's 5 months younger than Serrano, I think. 4. So kind of can follow more of what George does with Serrano. But Remy just likes to run around and be crazy.
It must be mad, it must be
Honest.
I was thinking, it must be having to think about when you were at school and the things you learned, because I guess the material is different now as well.
It is division's changed.
Simultaneous equations will knock you out.
Division's changed. Some of the it has.
That's it.
Yeah. Tyler was trying to do, because he was trying to do some maths work, and I was looking, I'm going, what's that song?
You know what?
Same time you got whole degrees.
I'm thinking, but my mum and dad don't know nothing. Are you sure you went to that? Are you sure you're educated?
That you should have seen, the amount of layers and lines that he was doing with numbers going across, and I'm looking at it going, oh. And he goes, is that right, Dad? And I'm like, 1 sec.
Yeah.
Phone, calculator. Divide. Yeah, it is, but I don't know how you got to that. So what I ended up having to do was get into his, and I was like, explain to me how you got to this, and then he would explain it, and then with the other answers and the other questions, I'd have to reverse engineer. So look at the answer, think, right, how did he get to that answer? And then work it back, so he's showing his, so I know he's showing his working out properly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's because I think it was more long division, and then I can't lie. Some of the things that was coming with English, like certain words, what he's got to do. I'm like, I don't know what that means. So he's asking me the question. I'm like, oh. So I'll just Google with my best friend, basically.
So what have you learned through the whole parenting experience from your children that you didn't have knowledge of before, or you did have limitedly?
Good question.
More, I'll say patience.
Patience,
100%. Definitely.
Patience.
Yeah. And then just that I need to still educate myself to educate them, if that makes sense.
Wow.
So one of the things that Tyler came home talking about, which sort of bothered me a bit, is when it was African Studies, or because they go, oh, it's Black Month, that 1 month that they have out in the year for us. So they started talking to him about Martin Luther King and stuff like that, and talking about history and mentioning slavery to my son, and I was like, they can teach you that, son, because that is part of our history.
Yeah.
But that's not where our history begins.
Yeah.
We started off as kings and queens,
Yeah.
so it was trying to change the narrative, so that it gives it puts that in his head that he can be anything.
Yeah.
Like we didn't start off as slavery, so I don't know why that's the first thing that they'll teach you.
That's all they know, though, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Well, yeah.
In reality.
No, yeah.
And again, even in that educational system, I think that's where I reckon a big part of being, I guess, the father I want to be as well is to fill those gaps where the education fails, and which is probably why we started this podcast as well. Like, why didn't you tell me? Exactly that. To fill in those gaps that education doesn't, that we don't just start from slavery or we weren't just a slave. Mate, that's the smallest portion of our existence. Just what I mean. And also as we come to this kind of new world of, everything from bending gender norms and everything else like that, like they're able to teach all those things, but yet not instill the base principles of, where we came from as people. I find that it's a bit disheartening, and I think that's where I think as a black dad, I'm going to fit in there.
I completely agree. I think it's for us to be accountable and and learn. Like, there's so many platforms now where you can learn about Black history.
Yeah.
Things like even now, I'm still like, wow, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like, every day there's something you're like, wow. Like, so it's a continuous learning process, I guess, for us, but also for our kids. But yeah, it's mad, man.
And to just kind of end it there, the way we always do, it's just about resources. So what piece of advice would you give to prospective fathers and people who are now thinking really and truly about how they form their families in the future?
Don't do it. Like Anton said before, I feel like the main thing with any form of relationship, whether it's with your partner, with your friends, communication.
Yeah.
Communication is the key to everything. Like, as long as you're able to communicate how you're feeling at this very moment of time across to them, then like you're not gonna have as many problems. Because I feel like the issue with a lot of people is they don't communicate. They can't communicate with the children.
You ball it up.
And that is going to be an issue. Do you know what I mean? Because then they start acting out, and you just have to be patient with them.
And that's what you're teaching them as well. So the more open that you are with them, the more open they are going to be with you. And it's like this thing of sharing emotions, and you get it where, I don't know, like, boys don't cry. Well, everyone cries. So if there's something to cry about, or you've got emotions that you need to let out, then let them out. Do you know what I mean? And it's about that. It's basically being open and letting them be whatever they want to be, and giving them the confidence to say, right, well, you can be whatever you want to be. Do you know what I mean? And what I'll say about being a father is, it's not something really that you need to rush into.
Yeah.
So it's you being ready mentally, and you actually being mentally prepared yourself, so that you've got, when you're bringing in a new life, you're going to take that new life down the right road, or down the road that you want it to go down.
I think for me, as a black son who wants to be a father, one thing which I would love to give to people who are my age and even younger is that understand your parents are actually going through an identity kind of solidification.
Yeah.
In the sense that this is a new role that they're taking on. They have been, for example, my dad's Felix. He was Felix for 25, 35 years. And then he became Felix's dad. So he had to take a new identity and learn through that identity. So you think in the first 5 years he's gonna know everything? No. When I'm 18, he's still learning through it. So give your parents that grace to understand their own identity as a parent, but then also give yourself grace that you're actually a troublesome person, because you're working through your own identity as well. So there's a duality that you need to have grace for everyone in this process of growth.
But I think what you just said there about accepting that you don't know everything as well, and just kind of like leaning then on your friendship circle, on your family, and just being like, listen, so what's going on? What do you guys think? Do you know what I mean? Because
that is true, because every child's different. So what works for one might not work for another. So when you're reading all books and stuff like that, like I remember my missus, that's what she said when the baby came, like, when Tyler came, do we need to read any child books? I got for? Do you know what I mean? Because they're not going to know our child.
Yeah.
We're going to know our child.
And
then
each book
you
is
just
different
adapt.
as well, because
Yeah.
you can read a book. I read a book and I was like, what are you even talking about? You know what I mean? And it does change, because I think like when Serena was born, obviously the way my mum like brought us up, it's like, oh no, you can lie your child on the back or something, and then like, oh no, you can't do that.
Yeah.
It's not the front. Yeah, or it all's changed. So in reality, you just have to, pray that your child's gonna be
In
safe.
the same
from
breath,
others,
I
innit?
remember Tyler not wanting to sleep when he was a baby, and my mum was like, "What are you doing?" And like, because he sleeps on his front, and I was like, "No, Anton, you didn't sleep on your front. You slept on your back."
Yeah,
She goes, "Just put him on his back." I know what they say, just put him on his back. So he put him on his back,
and it worked.
straight
Yeah.
to sleep.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that's just
It's
his
tricks of the trade, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess it is trying.
Try that way, yeah. Because in reality, no one ever knows what they're doing in life anyway.
Wow.
But you can have an idea of what you're doing, but no one, even if you have done it before in a previous life, this is going to be a new life anyway, so whatever you do, who's to say it's right or wrong?
And I guess a lot of the times when I've spoken to other like black dads as well, it's like, or even dads in general, you can never ever be ready. That's what. That's the thing I always get told. Like, there's no
You think
perfect
you are, but
situation.
you're
There's
never
no
ready.
nothing.
Yeah.
So, but then as long as you embrace that and you go, you know what, look, me and your partner, we're in it together, man. Look, we'll just wing it as we go.
Yo, we'll figure it out together, man.
I think the older I've gotten, the more I understand my parents. The more I understand little things. So I'm like,
You know what? Sometimes I look back and go like, you know what? I was annoying, you know.
Trust me, that's what I know that now. That's one of the things that I realise, that's why I got beat.
Yeah, you know,
Because I look at my son sometimes, I look at him and I think, oh,
you look back and you think, you know
this is a
what,
game.
I deserve that. I deserve that beating. Yo,
Do you know what?
If that was my dad, I'd have beat me worse.
That's a good point, because I remember Serena, he did not sleep. I remember one time I was like, come on, please. I actually cried because he was awake all night, and all I wanted to do was sleep.
Yeah.
And he just wouldn't, he just cried all the way through. Like I said, I remember crying and thinking, I don't have a clue what I'm doing. It's like within the first week of him being born. I'm thinking, I'm supposed to go through the rest of my life like this. I was like, do you know what? He will sleep, it will get easier. And my mum said to me one time, she's like, yeah, I actually took you to the doctors after a year because you wouldn't sleep either. I actually thought you were broke. Yeah, she's like,
I want a new one still.
I got the receipt one.
do you accept trading?
Like, he just wouldn't sleep, so it's like, yeah, this is his revenge, isn't it? But yeah.
Which is funny because my wife is a little shit. Right? And we always laugh and joke about when we have children, it's gonna be the revenge of because like my wife was
Will always be.
Yeah. So I'm worried to see what revenge. Like honestly, because because if my you is as bad breed as my wife,
And you.
Oh my goodness.
I'm envious of people though that can like. It's not even that. Well, going back to that kind of like disciplining and hitting kids and things like that. Like, I don't know about you guys. I've had that conversation with my partner as well, and you know, she's very much like, we're not touching our kids. Whereas I'm like, yeah, you know, I discipline them physically when it's needed. But I'm envious of people that raise kids with just a look.
Yeah.
yeah, that's some.
Yeah,
like,
No, but it don't always come from that though.
Exactly, it
Like,
comes from somewhere.
yeah, it comes from somewhere. Like my kids now, all they need is a look.
They know what will come after the
Or
look.
I will say their name. Do you know what I mean? So they'll be doing some arguing, and the mum goes, Tyler, Layla, stop it. And then when I hear, I'm gonna get your dad, I'm like, I can't be bothered. So I go, kids, and they just go silent.
You hear that face? You hear that face? Take your kids.
And then that's it, they stop. Or if they're doing something like out in public, I'll just look over to them, and then I'll just wait for them to catch my eye, and then that's it. Just a little turn to the head to side. And
Do you
that's it.
find like your role with the kids as the disciplinarian, or like what's the dynamic?
I don't think that I've got a given dynamic. For us, I think equally we discipline when and if needed.
Yeah.
Remy being less than 2, he doesn't really know right from wrong at this point. would like him to. Some stuff, I was like, come on, Remy. Really? Don't hit daddy. It's not funny. It's good for anyone. So at this stage, it's like...
It's early days, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, you're lucky.
Just guide him. Hopefully, he'll stop doing it soon. And when he understands, then hopefully I can do the look too.
No, you ain't got it.
You have to practice it a few times.
No,
He'll come.
I'm the disciplinarian in my house. Yeah, and my missus will openly admit that as well. She'll say, "Oh yeah, it's on him."
Or is that because you're just angry?
I'm not, you know. See, I get told that I'm freak. Felix, there's no need for this. No, but it's always been that way. Like, she would even say to my kids, because she's been on the phone to me before, and she's like, when your dad gets home. And I'd tell her stop doing that. Because then they're going to fear me coming home. And I said, then that's not fair on me. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I used to come in through my front door, and the first thing she'll do is, wow, this is what that one's done today, this is what that one... And I said, no.
Yeah, but you have to understand where that's coming from, though. You have to understand where that's coming from. Obviously, she's had them for a long period of time during that day. Obviously, it can just get on top. So she has to then vent to you, even though, it's not fair on you. She has to do that.
Yeah, but it's just at the time when you do it. So then, once I actually told her and let her know how it affected me, it was like, well, don't tell me as soon as I come in, because the kids are actually there. They're listening to it. So it was like, right, okay, I'll come in. I'll say hello to them, see them, give them a hug. And then it's like, right, we're going to the kitchen. And then you just tell me then what's going on. And that's when she can tell me all that. And then you'll be like, right.
You said one of the hardest things I've ever heard is that how does it affect me as a dad? And it's like, my parents got divorced last year. So my dad's strength was, I need to look good for my kids. They don't need to see me crying. They don't need to see all of this. But at the same time, is that I think it's how I viewed my relationship with my dad. I started to love my dad when I was probably like 15, even though he'd always been there. But that love was when I started to be an actual man and start, okay, I need my dad. But all the time, as you were saying, I feared my dad coming home. I feared the fact that if I had gone out of sight of his boundaries of what the values that he instilled in me, that I knew that there was a punishment in that. That punishment would correct me, but the punishment would always be a detriment to the relationship that we're trying to build. So until that I started to see him as a vulnerable person and how parenting actually affected him, that's when I started to see, actually, that's my friend. That's a person who's still finding his identity. So now, what I found is the biggest thing, and I think that what all of you guys are building with your children, and what I think my dad's built with me, is that I am my dad's best friend without even trying. Because he knows that the relationship which I have with him, I can be truthful as possible. I can tell him everything about my life because of the fact that I have seen him vulnerable, that I've seen him being able to express his feelings, to say, yo, when I come home, I want my kids to love me. I want my kids to see me as their hero, but at the same time, to have a caveat where they know if they step out of line, that I am their boundary point. That when they step out of that world, they don't have my protection no more. And I tell this because it's a funny story for me, that my dad, there was one time in secondary school, sports day, one Australian teacher was like, Felix, this. Me, I'm an emotional person, so I started crying. So when I started crying, everyone in my year was ribbing me, like, you're just soft. I called up my dad. My dad swiftly came through to the school, told the teacher, badded her up in front of everyone, said, you never talk to my son ever again like that. I'm his father. I'm the only person to ever say that. So there's me. Daddy's here. He's here to rescue me. And my dad literally finished cussing her out and he said, you're staying. I said, what? I said, so am I not coming in now? He's like, you're staying. You're going to realize that you're a man and you have to face up to all of these things. I'm here to protect you for now. But the rest of it is that I'm not always going to be here. And I think it's one of those points where, you know, there's a safety net that you carry around your children. But then what I feel that you guys are doing, and through the way I've seen you through your podcast and just interacting with you all day, is that you're teaching your children the skills to be self-reliant, but to have the confidence to know who they are.
Yeah.
And that nobody can say anything because Uncle Carlos is going to tell you how great you are.
Yeah.
Uncle Anton is going to slap you if you think that you can run around everywhere. Uncle Jason, who have no kids, will roll up to my spot and say,
Listen, I'll beat someone's kid, you know. Yo, anyone shoot me, they're beating. I'll beat them, trust me. You need help, let me know, bro.
Anytime you're tired, call me.
Yeah. Tag me in, bro.
But you know what it is? It's about for me. It's about realizing as well that our parents have environments that they're more comfortable in than others.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And understanding that. But again, I didn't come to that realization until I got older. Like, for example, when I go to Zim with my dad's a different person. Do you know what I mean? A completely different person. But maybe when he's here and he's not around his friends, he's not around people that speak his language and he gets in his shell a little bit. Do you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, now I know. Do you know what I mean? Before I used to think, oh, what's happening with Dad? It's a bit quiet. Like, what's going on? It's because it's not with his, you know what I mean, in his circle.
They're people as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is the thing. Like,
Yeah,
I think we put a lot on our parents' shoulders, and we're like,
we do.
they should have done this, they should have done that, they should have. At the end of the day, they tried their best.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, whatever resource they had to hand, they used it. It's not as if like they kept something in their back pocket for themselves. They never. Do you know what I mean? Like they'll give every last dime for you before anything else. So then, I think me and my parents have become, especially my dad as well, become very, very close in the last couple of years, and it's because I've realised that any shortcomings that I thought we had actually was them giving 100% of everything they had to hand.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And then as soon as you realise that, then like it all comes together quite nicely.
Yeah. And I think that's a good place to leave it. Thanks for joining the podcast, guys. All right, thanks for listening. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and follow the Black Dads Live podcast, as well as the Why Didn't You Tell Me podcast.